3, 2, 1. Boom, we are live. Hello, Devesh. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Caio. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Devesh. Hi, Caio.
All right, first of all, first question. Are you an iOS developer?
Yeah, definitely. I'm an iOS developer. I'm a bit new to it, and I'm having involved in this iOS app development from last 1 year. Yeah,
Awesome. So 1 year iOS developer.
yeah.
Okay.
And before
A
that,
bit-
were you a developer as well before that?
No, I'm student. Right now. I'm also a student.
Right. So how can we help you?
Yeah. So there are few questions. First one was like about TDD approach. How can I adopt it? How can I start learning it? I'm totally new to it, so I just watched two or three, or you can say your module of that TDD. I started watching it, but yeah, that was like too much for me because I don't know
Mm,
at that time. I don't know anything about TDD, so I followed your career week, so in which I came to know what is TDD, and then I started searching about TDD. Now I
Mhm.
am more curious about it. That how can I implement it in my real life?
right. So you watched the videos we put on YouTube, right? We have a series
Yeah.
there.
The
Yeah,
Watch the whole
professional
series.
iOS engineering series.
because I found you are the only guys who are focusing on the intermediate or the advanced level of iOS developers.
Mm. Okay.
All others are just creating the to-do list or the web weather applications or just simple applications or the
Right.
just basic one. But I found you guys that who are focusing on a bit uh, up level.
Okay, so have you tried applying what you're seeing there?
I tried a bit like how can I validate an email or those small things, but I haven't applied on a whole project. Like how can I do that? I really don't have any idea.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna come with practice. Have you seen the live session we did earlier today?
Today,
Yes.
no, because fr- before this lesson, I was doing my internship from work from
Right.
home. After that, I attended a marriage and just came back to home.
Wow, busy day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds like it.
a bit, a bit busy day. Yeah.
All right. So we shared like the framework we think is the most efficient to learn things, which is first of all, you're gonna learn about a concept, right? So the conceptual part of learning, like you
Mm-hmm.
did. You watch our career course, and then
Mm-hmm.
you realize that TDD isn't even a thing, right? It came to existence in what you know. So that's the conceptual part, about concepts. Then you're gonna watch uh, examples, right? So you're gonna learn by example,
Okay.
and you've seen our videos there. And the last part is to practice and apply what you learn, right?
Okay.
And the more you go back to this cycle here, this loop,
Mm-hmm.
the better you become. So you learn the concept TDD, and then you saw some examples, and then you try to apply, and
Okay.
maybe you couldn't do it at the level of proficiency you wanted. So you need to go back to the conceptual part,
Okay.
review the concepts, why you're doing TDD, why is it important, how it can help you, and then you watch examples again and practice. And you need to repeat this loop here infinitely. Even when you become a black belt, you need to keep
Okay.
doing this because the learning journey is infinite. It never stops. The more you do this, the better you become. Even as a black belt, you can still become better.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So you will try to apply it, you practice it, you watch the videos there on YouTube, and maybe it didn't make a lot of sense. So you need to go back to the first step and then repeat. It will click. It will click, you know? And you need to get different examples as well, better examples. And if you can get someone to help you and give you feedback as well, this is gonna help you a lot. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of moving gradually. And you mentioned, like simple to do and weather apps, which are, a good starting point. But if you haven't already, you can start writing tests first while rewriting these apps, and then you can start implementing new features on these, apps, and try to test drive these features, just gradually, small
Yeah,
features.
that's a good suggestion. Like I can start with the beginners apps because it seems to be a very basic apps to me right now, because I have created like 2 or 3 apps which is like on a very big level
Hmm.
as of according to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a good suggestion from you. So I will start trying to it by creating just basic app and applying TDD on those things.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, because you're learning a new skill,
yeah.
and maybe you cannot apply together with you what you already know. So maybe you need to downgrade a little bit the difficulty
Mhm.
of the challenge you're gonna take,
Yeah.
so you can apply this new skill at a less proficient level until you become more proficient and more proficient, and then you can apply in bigger and bigger challenges.
Like this is paramount. It's like, if you think about, okay, I want to do it, maybe I see Caio and Mike doing it in this series, and it's this is cool. Like, I want to be able to do whole apps, or whole systems and stuff like that. But it's not gonna happen. Like, you need to start from something small. As you said, like, what you mentioned is, I think, is perfect. Like, these validation kind of functions, like just input output. You don't have any side effects, just pure functions. This is a good starting point to grasp this idea, of this technique.
Because what I am facing right now, I made a small change here and it is creating a big mess there. What this is the situation what I am facing. So yeah, I think so this will be clear by test cases. If I
Mhm.
apply test cases and I made some changes here, so I can run the test cases and it will tell me that you are making changes here and it will create the problem there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
For example, Mike said that those functions, there's like input, output with no side effects. They are very easy to test, right? And
Mhm.
very easy to maintain as well. And then by writing tests, you're going to realize that it's much easier to write tests for functions that are simple and have one responsibility and they have no side effects, which will now help you design systems that are as simple as those functions,
Mm.
you know?
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah,
Then your
get
whole
it.
system will be much simpler because like the test will put a lot of incentives for you to make simple code.
Yes, to think about it.
Because
And
code with a lot of side effects, with threading, everything mixed up, is going to be very hard to test. Thus, if you want to test it, you're going to have to separate these responsibilities,
exactly.
right? It's another incentive to do test-driven development, in my opinion.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
and also, like, finally, for me, just set the right expectations. Like, you're a beginner, that it's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not gonna work in a week or two. So, I mean, I found that many developers, they don't set the right expectations, and they try techniques as such, and they're expecting, to see results in like a month. And of course, they just they don't see the results, and they end up abandoning the whole process, in terms of, like, they say it doesn't work or something like that. you
Yes.
know that's not true. You need to set the right expectations. Like, you're learning a hard skill. It's like, we're saying it again and again. It's not an easy thing to do. Like, you need to rewire, you know your whole thinking process and decision making process, and
Yeah.
understand that it's not just about writing code. It's like, it's gonna make you think more and more about the business. Like what Caio said now. Why do you need that? Why do you need test driven development? It's not like because two guys said on YouTube. No, it's like,
No, I found it in my real life that I need it. That's why I start exploring it, and I heard it from you, so I thought I should explore it more.
Excellent. Yes, exactly. Keep exploring. Keep exploring and keep practicing. This loop there on the board is the way, in my opinion, of just going after it. And yeah, things will click. They will click in time. Yeah.
Repeat.
Yeah.
Infinite loop. While true.
Exactly.
Awesome. Anything else?
Yeah, one more question. Like, can you explain me a bit about should I start learning also the RX Swift, the reactive programming, or should I remain on the Swift first and then started
Yeah,
moving
I think
on?
I think I no, I think remain on Swift first. Like grasp the fundamentals. Make
Mhm.
sure you practice them. Make sure you truly understand them. And then you can sure you can move into other parts like functional programming and then reactive programming. Because if you have like if you try to learn everything at once and you assign equal weight on its technique or its tool,
Mhm.
you'll probably end up doing nothing. It's because you're going to be overwhelmed.
The biggest problem is that there will be conflicting principles
Yes,
between
that as well.
object-oriented, between functional,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
also reactive programming, right?
yeah,
And if you're trying to learn all of them at the same time, you may be confused. You may
yeah.
get confused. So focus on one.
Mhm.
If you're working already, like, I don't know, if you're working in a project that is like functional, you inherited this code base, you're going to have to learn how to use this
Mhm.
functional approach. If you're working in a project that is using RX Swift or Combine, you're going to have to learn how to use it, right?
Okay.
But if you have the choice, just choose one, whatever you're comfortable right now, master it, and then
Yeah.
you learn the other one, because it's important, like, to learn functional programming. It's important to learn object-oriented programming. You need to learn all of them, right?
Yeah.
Because they complement each other.
Okay.
They complement each other. It's not
Exactly.
one or the other. You can use principles from all of them together, but some of the principles might conflict. Like in objects, you may have some side effects, but like with functional programming, you're gonna try to eliminate some side effects from your logic,
Okay.
and so on. So things will start making sense as you progress.
Mhm.
But yeah, focus with the problem you're dealing with right now. Don't try to fit the frameworks into the problem. Look at the problem, solve the problem, then you see if the framework is gonna help you get there.
Yeah. Get it.
Be patient.
Awesome.
I'm a passionate, so like I'm curious about everything.
Of
But yeah,
course. Yeah.
Now that's
Yeah.
a great skill. Like, this is something you should always be curious, always be
Yeah.
a student,
Absolutely.
learn
Exactly.
everything you can. You can learn from functional programming, from object-oriented, from everything, procedural. They all have something to add to the mix.
okay. Okay.
Awesome. Anything else?
Nah, that's it from my side. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Good to talk to you.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care. Take care, Davis.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Hello, Caio.
Hi, Caio. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Koi.
I normally
Yeah,
start
it's good to be
asking
back.
if you are an iOS developer, but I know you are an iOS developer already.
Exactly.
Yes.
Welcome back, we should say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's good to be back.
All right. So we spoke a year ago, almost, maybe more.
Mhm.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what
I used
changed since our last mentoring session?
Yes. Yeah, it's been changing a lot since the last year. I moved from a company which doesn't apply any TDD process or testing or architectures to like a much better company where we do TDD and we have good software architectures, and we also provide the training budget for people. So I think it's a big step for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, because the thing I learned from the course.
Oh, awesome. All right. How can we help you?
Yeah, actually, I have some question today. So my first question is like, how can I practice the modular design and software architecture skill? Yeah, because I find that the chance to practice it in a real project is not that available. It's really hard to find that opportunity to do that kind of skill. So I think I should better prepare for it when the chance comes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you need to prepare outside work. Like we said the other day, that like musicians, they don't practice on the stage, right? They go there to perform. And it's the same as a programmer. When you are at work, you're there to perform, so you don't have a lot of chance to practice, right? So you're gonna have to find time to practice on your own. And to practice modular design and software architecture, just like any other skill, you practice by doing it, right? Building apps on your own. Like with constraints, you can set constraints to your practice. Like in martial arts, you may tie your hand, and try to do the position and balance yourself. So you can set constraints when you're practicing. For example, no view controller should talk to another view controller. There should be something in the middle that will adapt to this communication. Or no model should reference another model. Just go, it's a simulation. Just go to the extremes, push the limits. Because you're practicing, you have all the freedom in the world to try out anything, any idea, and you will notice that you will hit roadblocks when you set those constraints. When you tie one hand, it's much harder to do some positions, to do some techniques. And then when you're stuck, you're going to have to find answers, new answers. And that's how we're going to learn a new technique in a new technique in a new technique. Right? For example, when I was learning functional programming, I had to put a constraint of not creating classes, for example, to solve a problem. I created a game with no classes. And I have to find out solutions to that, because by default, my brain would think about how to solve that problem with a class, for example, right?
Yeah.
But by setting constraints, no, I cannot use class. I cannot have side effects in the core of the game. Then things start getting interesting. You need to find solutions. Or if you want to get away from procedural programming to become more object-oriented, you can try to solve a problem with no if statements, no conditional statements. You put constraints into the practice that will force you to find new solutions to the problem, push the limits.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle, right? And yeah, I really like this idea about constraints, because let's say, for example, one way of doing things, right? Let's say you want to move from one screen to the other, right? And let's say you push from one view controller to another, to solve that scene. You still have two view controllers. You still have two scenes,
You still have data to share between them.
Like you need to think now, okay, like how could this be? Like
singleton.
How? Yeah, I mean, right. So yeah, in terms of like, you're gonna reach the same result, but yeah, by setting these constraints, you're gonna have to think outside the box. It's like you're gonna have to have some imagination, expand the imagination rather, and see, like how it can fit together.
And also try out, like you want to try modularity actually create physical modules in your project, static libraries, try out with dynamic frameworks, extract parts of your logic to create physical boundaries and separations that you would not compile the project if you try to break the modularity,
Yep.
because you're also
Yeah.
going to learn how to create those static libraries, dynamic frameworks, static frameworks, Swift packages, and different solutions as well for extracting code and reusing them across projects, across modules.
Okay. Yeah.
And keep learning. Be
Yeah,
curious.
Yeah. Sure.
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So my second question is, you introduced the bell system, right? I think I'm at the purple belt, so it's mean average. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so yeah. So my question is like, how can I move from the purple belt to the brown belt? Yeah.
Right. So the purple belt is above average,
Yeah.
right? And you want to go to the top 10%.
Yes.
Right. So skill-wise, keep practicing, right? This infinite loop here. Go back to the concepts, see new examples, and practice with constraints. The higher your belts, the more constraints you should put into your practice to learn different ways, to really think outside the box and find new solutions, and keep repeating this. Now, financially wise, if you want to be above average here and go to the top 10%, you must start promoting yourself. This is key. You need to be known for your skills as well. So give talks in your local community, like maybe start a community there if there is nothing going on. Create a blog, YouTube channel. Maybe even if you start becoming like more known in the industry, travel around to other countries to give talks, become a reference, like a bunch of references you follow in the industry that does the same. What do they do? Start studying what the other people do. They are at the top of the game. You need to start becoming a reference in the industry. And the earlier you start, the better. You can start building a reputation globally since white belt.
Yes.
If you wait to back here to then start building a reputation, it's going to take much longer to get the brown belt.
Yes.
It's going to take much longer because you're going to start from scratch, the reputation part, and But if you start here, but it's never too late, right?
Yeah.
Just saying, like, anyone can start here, but you can start at any point. At any point, you can start it.
Yeah, this is a great insight for the audience, by the way. Start as a white belt. Exactly. You don't have to be a brown belt. Yeah, and I think these are extremely good points that Caio make, and what you can do to bind them basically is through teaching, right? So you need to bring this idea of teaching others what you have learned, right? So you solidify that, I know these things, like I can prove it, and I have skin in the game now, because I'm going out there in the public, in the wild, that putting my name that, like, hey, this thing works, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. So
and don't be afraid of being wrong as well. Sometimes you teach something, you're just wrong. Like, it happens to everyone.
Yeah,
shouldn't block you.
And yeah, you can. This can be you can teach people in your team, in other teams, by pairing. Be proactive on the pairing part, or have if you don't have already, maybe you can start hosting these, like, I don't know, like lunch and learns. That the whole team participates, and you tackle a problem, or you show a new technique or something like that. And of course, start building a reputation, probably online. I mean, it's something that's going to help for sure.
Yeah, teaching is one of the best ways of actually learning stuff, like mastering the skill. Because what do black belts do normally? They teach, right?
Yeah.
So that's the goal. You're learning at some point to teach others, to pass the knowledge forward, to keep it alive. So yeah, and to be part of the 10%, you're also going to have to build some skills outside programming as well, like leadership. That's why we wrote the book and put it in the program, because we know that when people get here and they start getting better and better positions, the bottleneck now is not the technical skills. They're very good technically, but the bottleneck now is like dealing with the team, being a leader, getting the more social skills.
Yeah.
That will make you also be more valuable to the businesses.
Right.
Personal development. You're going to start learning a lot about personal development here as well. And also how to invest your money, because like you're going to be making more money, you need to know what to do with that money, right? So you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, make a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
My third question is, if you have to use reactive programming in your project, let's say combine to be specific, how can you manage the side effect effectively? Yeah.
Side effects like network connections, writing to a database, updating the UI, and so on.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So if you're using Combine, it's a choice to use it across the application, right? You don't have to.
Yeah, but let's say people want to use it. I know that from the course, right? We only use it in the composition layer, so everything is object-oriented below. But like, let's say if you have to use it like across your application, like from top to bottom, like I see the projects that like really hard to follow the stream. So let's say it's split like any way it want in any place one. Like it's really hard to follow the stream. Yeah. So I want to and in the upcoming project, I think we will use it. So I want to like know about the downside risk of using that one. Yeah.
Well, the risk is that things will be more complex, right? They will be complex because, like, if you think about threading as a separate concern, it's simple. You can reason about it. If you think about side effects, you can reason about it. And then if you think about network connections in isolation, it's easy to deal with them in isolation. But when you mix everything together, then you have complications, right? You have complexity. Because you're complecting stuff. If that's even a word. You're mixing a lot of things together, so it's hard to manage them, right? So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard if you mix everything. But I know that most reactive code bases, if they're using a framework like Combine or RX Swift or RIS Swift, it's going to be everywhere, even in protocols, even in abstractions. It's going to go in the UI, it's going to go in the business logic, it's going to go in the domain layer, it's going to go in the database, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be hard because, first of all your tests will be asynchronous.
Right.
All your tests will somehow have to have a lock, a wait. This may make your tests a bit slower as well. So you're going to have to manage this complexity. Yes. Is it possible? Yes. It's just going to be harder. I find it less efficient, but it's possible. You're going to have to be dealing with all these concerns in everywhere. You cannot just test a pure function, because you're going to test this pure function through a stream API that you're going to have to wait for the result, and extract the value from the monad. It's gonna be a bit hard. But if you can start separating at least the pure functions with no side effects from the ones with side effects, then you can test the pure functions in isolation, and then you compose them with RxWift, combine, whatever, and you write some integration tests to make sure the composition is correct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, the most efficient way is the way we show in the program. But
Yeah.
I know that most projects will not follow it, so you're gonna have to deal with the complexity.
Yeah.
I know because I've wrote projects like this, where I was using RxSwift, Reactive Cocoa at the time, in Objective-C, using it everywhere. It works, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's gonna burn a lot of brain cells there.
Sure.
Exactly.
Anything else?
The next question is, how to prevent the feature flags like spread among the source code? So let's say you have two features and you have the condition to turn on and turn off one of them to show to different user. Yeah. So
please go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So like, I'm not sure like which layer it should belong to, because sometimes the feature is it's the condition to show the feature, right? It's sometimes it's like really depend on the business logic as well. Yeah. So that's my concern.
Right. Yeah. So you can think of it as like, a feature like as a tree, that branches out. So now what does this resemble? It resembles the composition root. If you remember from the course as well, you have these leaves that, they all have like a parent root, which is the composition root. And it's exactly the same thing here. What you need to do is separate the concerns like efficiently, effectively, and meaning modularize your application, right? And then you compose exactly what you need in one place. So by doing that, you're not going to end up with a bunch of if statements in lower level components, like views, for example, which is very common, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to move the feature flags up the chain as close as possible to the composition root. As you said, if it's like activating a feature or not, that's simpler, because then it's just, you can do it at the composition level if you're going to add a button or not, for example, if you're going to activate a feature or not. But if you separate your application, if you follow the solid principles and you create like composable solutions, you most always will be possible to switch the implementations from the composition root level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It will be possible, because then you can use polymorphism, right? For example, you want to deactivate a feature, you can use the no object pattern, for example. And at the composition level, you decide, I'm either going to use the real object that will actually instantiate things and put a button on the screen, or I'm going to use the no object pattern that will behave. You have a no behavior, we're not going to crash the app, but it's not going to add the button to the screen, for example.
Yeah.
Right? And you can make this decision at the composition root level, because then all the feature flags, all this if logic, this conditional logic will be in a single module, right?
Yeah.
The problem is when feature flags go everywhere, because then you're going to have probably like an enum full of constants, and then every other module needs to point to this enum, this, and it breaks modularity, because now you have this centralized place that every time you change one tiny thing, you need to recompile, redeploy all the other modules.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that. And how? Push it as close as possible to the composition root. And again, this is something that you can practice as a constraint. I need to have feature flags in the composition root. This is a constraint we are putting here. Now, maybe this makes no sense. No, this is impossible, Caio. What are you talking about? No, it's not impossible. Be curious, because you'll find solutions. It is possible.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
For sure.
This is a constraint. You can practice this, not at work. Maybe at work you're gonna put this enum somewhere, some constants, and have some if statements everywhere. When you get home, you will practice. How would I be able to do it if this if statement was in the composition root? Then you're gonna start, this question is gonna start helping you find out solutions. You will find out there are solutions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the answer. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything
Okay.
else?
Yeah, I think my last question from my side is I'm trying to learn functional programming for the next project, and I have no idea like where to start or how to start with this. Yeah. So yeah, can you give me some suggestion or
Of
advice?
what resources? Books?
Yeah.
All right, we have a book in the book suggestion page about functional programming. It's not in Swift, but
Yeah,
be open-minded.
Yeah, it's in JavaScript. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
It's this one, Professor Frisbee's Mostly Adequate Guide to Functional Programming.
Yeah.
If you're starting with the basics, for me, this is the book. It's another language, but you can translate it to Swift, right? It's about learning the concepts about it. But there are books in Swift as well you can find about functional programming. And you're gonna have to practice because you are more used to object-oriented, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and I think I don't have a choice to this because it's coming.
That's the best way to learn, when you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the time. Maybe you were holding one day I'm gonna learn functional programming. One day. Well, now's the time. So you're gonna learn at work as well, and as the challenges come, you would have questions that you need to answer. Because right now, maybe you don't know where to start, right? You are feeling lost because you don't know where to start. But when you start seeing the challenges you're gonna have at work, then you're gonna have questions. And with the questions, you can find the answers. But right now, you don't even have the questions, right? You're just like, how can you help me? Anything. But it will come. It will come with time.
Yeah.
Look at that. People are giving some solutions, some suggestions here in the chat as well.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
That's it. And also learn from other languages, because you can learn from people that are masters in Haskell, in F#, more functional languages, because Swift is more hybrid, right? You can use both and you can mix them and can have side effects everywhere. But there are other languages that are much more strict, and strictness comes back to the constraints thing, right? That will force you to find solutions differently. Because you can be using RX Swift combined, but still having very object-oriented solutions that are not functional at all, full of side effects, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the goal. If you're using functional programming, if you're using Reactive Programming frameworks, you want to get the most out of those or this paradigm, right? You want to get the benefits of it. But if you put side effects everywhere, you're getting the worst of both worlds. But you need to understand the principles behind functional programming. And there are books, there are courses. And as you're going to start practicing at work, the questions will arise and you're going to find the answers. An author that I like a lot, it's probably my favorite author at the time. It's Mark Seaman.
Yeah.
He writes a lot about functional programming, and he was an object-oriented developer. And he makes a lot of posts with parallels, objective programming, object-oriented programming, and what would be the functional solution to it. It's usually in C# and Haskell and F#, but you can get the concept. You know, he explains it really well. So I also recommend him to help you with this. By the way, I got the idea in the course about, you were asking about side effects here in functional programming, right?
Yeah.
Remember the functional sandwich where you have like the side effects. And you have a pure function in the middle. Pure function. That's it. Functional sandwich. How you do dependency injection with functions, right? In a functional way. For example, we have a network connection that will fire some side effects. When there is a result, this result will be composed with a pure function. Like you will transform that data into some models, and then you will print it in the UI. You will pass it to the UI, and the UI will update, you know, the screen. So the idea is like you have a side effect at the top, a pure function in the middle, and a side effect at the bottom. And this is how you manage side effects in a functional way. And maybe it's like, Kai, this makes no sense. It will make sense.
Yeah.
As you practice.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Like maybe like right now, I cannot imagine what happened. Yeah, but yeah. Thanks. I will like bring this idea into the.
Yeah, and it's in the course.
practice.
It's like you'll see it in the course. This exact I don't know how to call it, like graphic scheme.
Yeah.
That's it. Remember the loop here. Conceptual, example, practice, and apply. Repeat, right? So you're going to be working now with functional programming. Fantastic. You're going to start learning something new. Then you're going to watch the course again. Watch the main module again. When you watch it again, since you have new questions in your head, you will see the course differently. You will find answers that were there, but you could not understand before. Or you thought you understood.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
Yeah.
You're going to see the examples. And then you're going to practice again. And then you're going to go back to the concept. And you're going to watch the course again. And something else is going to click. And then something else is going to click. And you're going to repeat this loop here. The more you repeat this, the better you will become.
Sure. Like, yeah, for me, like I watched the course, the third round already. And the question start coming in the third round only. Like the second round is like, I watch what you done, and then I follow it. But then in the third round, I see some other details that I never recognized before. Yeah, so that's why I start asking questions.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That's it. The more you watch it, the more you're going to see details in there that you missed before.
Yeah, that's really true.
And ask questions. When you have a question that you cannot address, just ask. I'm going to help you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Awesome. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Nice to talk again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really nice. See ya.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right.
Take care, Koi.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.